you, Claire. Well, I'll talk a little bit more throughout this about, how I got involved with FBB. Is this on? I mean, I'm not sure that I need it, but
it's just for this thing.
Oh, okay. How I started it at Foundation Beyond Belief, which we call FBB, if you're not familiar with it. How many of you have heard of Foundation Beyond Belief before? Just curious. Okay. So what I'm going to do today is, and I was invited here to share my story about going through Hurricane Harvey, because I live in Houston, and basically how it's informed my work and how we will move forward and how I will move forward during a disaster. So I'll talk a little bit about Foundation Beyond Belief in general, and give you a little bit more detail about the work that we do with disasters, and then I'll talk about my personal story through Harvey, and kind of let you know how that experience went. And then I'd like to ask that everyone hold questions till the end, and I can always go back into the presentation if we need to look at a slide, but I think that would be my preference. So, and just so you know, I'm the executive director, as Claire said. I know sometimes people like to tweet, during speeches, and I didn't know how big the crowd would be, so that's my personal Twitter, which I'm not really very active on, and that's Foundation Beyond Belief's Twitter. So just in case we have any tweeters in the audience. So Foundation Beyond Belief is an organization that was formed. It was conceived of in 2009, and it was, I don't know, who has heard of Dale McGowan? Have you heard of Dale? Dale is an author. He wrote some parenting books and some other books, and he kind of, in his research through his books and through his work, he found some information that said that believers end up giving a lot more to charity than non-believers. And, there are a couple reasons for this, but one of the reasons is that what do believers do? They go to church. They give at church. How often do they go to church? Every week, pretty much. So they're being prompted every week to give, through the church or to the church. And it's that one of the factors is that regular reminder to give helps us to give more. So Dale had the idea that, well, let's create an organization for atheists and humanists and, whatever your preferred preference for your terminology is, to regularly allow them to give collectively as a community like a church does, and kind of visibly as part of their identity and as part of expressing our values. So in our worldview. So Dale started Foundation Beyond Belief. So we're guided by the principles of secular humanism. Our mission is to unite the humanist community. We as humanists, because that's kind of the term that makes the most sense for us, but feel free to substitute if you're not comfortable with that term. Unite the humanist community in volunteering and charitable efforts, and to advocate for compassionate action throughout the world. So, we're not only providing a way for people to give collectively and volunteer collectively, but also, part of our mission is to express to the world and help shape the world and influence the world and say, these are humanist values and they're important. It's important to care about people, not because you get some kind of, prize at the end or whatever, but because it's the right thing to do. So, and we have 4 programs that we use to forward our mission. These 4 programs have all been started at different points in the organization, and I'll talk about that a little bit because it's kind of been a progression. So the first program is our grants program. So this is kind of the original program of Foundation Beyond Belief. And we collect donations from people, monthly donations, and then we aggregate those donations and give grants to different charities. And we vet the charities and do a lot of research on the charities so that we know that they're secular, that they're efficient, that they're effective, you know. And we also try to choose charities that, you know, are in line with our values as a community. So, so that's grants. And then volunteering is supporting secular groups doing service activities in local communities like ACA does. The Service Corps, oh, that looks like a little formatting issue. The Service Corps is international volunteers, and they're currently working on women's rights issues in Ghana. And then the Disaster Response Program, which is a focal point for humanists to assist and respond together as a community after a disaster strikes. So this is just an example of one of the beneficiaries that we have had in the past, SkyTruth. This program was launched originally, it was the original program, so it was launched in Q1 2010 by Dale McGowan, who is the founder and former executive director before me. And you know, this is the type of things that our charities do. We have 4 different categories. This charity falls into the natural world category, and it's really interesting because they use satellite imagery to monitor effects of industrial activity, environmental effects. And one of the really key things that they have been able to find is that they found that the gallons of oil spilled in the northern Gulf were 50 times larger than the official estimates. And you know, it's not easy to estimate these types of things, but with the satellite imagery and the experience that they have interpreting that, they're able to get more accurate results. So just wanted to share an example of a type of beneficiary that we support. The second program of Foundation Beyond Belief is the Beyond Belief Network. It began as a pilot program in 2011 with 7 groups. And this is actually how I became involved with Foundation Beyond Belief. I had, you know, I've been in Houston since 2004, and I moved from Seattle. So I used to say that it was like moving to another country to go from Seattle to Houston. It was after college, and I started working for a large oil and gas company as a project manager and a field engineer. I have an engineering degree, and you know, I had moved here. I didn't know anyone. I was by myself, and people kept saying, "Oh, you'll meet people at church. You know, just find a good church and go to your church, and you'll meet people there." And I was like, you know, that's not going to work for me. And so I had identified as an atheist for longer, but it wasn't until then that I really started feeling the pull to find my people. And it's funny, having lived in a more liberal, less religious place like Seattle versus Texas, because when it's not kind of in your face all day, every day, it's not as, you don't have as much of a need, at least I didn't, to have a break from that. You know, it's just kind of, it's not as much of an issue, but then coming here, it was like, oh my goodness, I need to, you know, find some people that I can talk to about this and about how, you know, much this is going on. And so, so I did that, and then I noticed that a lot of the groups in Houston were having lectures, and there's nothing wrong with lectures. I like lectures. I'm here for a lecture, or whatever you want to call it, a speech. But, you know, they were also saying, well, why aren't our groups more diverse? Why don't we have more women? You know, why don't we have more racially diverse groups? And I was like, well, it's because you only have lectures. You know, you need to have events that will appeal to women. So I got this bright idea to start a charity, and it was called Secular Center. And it was basically around getting people to volunteer together as atheists or humanists, or it was atheist at the time, the term that I chose. And so, you know, I went around the country and I talked to different groups and kind of tried to get them to start volunteering. And that was in 2009. And I did that for a couple years, and then there was kind of some talks of all of the groups in the movement kind of joining their charity efforts. And my group was a part of that I had, and Foundation Beyond Belief was a part of that. And there were a couple other groups that were doing charity work. And so we all kind of started talking, and nobody could agree on, how it was going to work. So kind of all fell apart, except for my organization and Foundation Beyond Belief. And it happened a little bit after that. I had a baby, and so I kind of went away and was very sick and pregnant, and then kind of came back and said, yes, I want to do this. And so Dale and I agreed that we would merge Secular Center. I would merge Secular Center into Foundation Beyond Belief, and that I would start organizing the Beyond Belief Network. So I know that ACA is a part of the Beyond Belief Network, so thank you for being a part of that, and thank you for the service that you guys do. Obviously, I've spent, 8 years around, volunteering and service, so it's close to my heart, and my, it's part of my passion. And so the Beyond Belief Network started with 7 groups. It's 125 groups now, 6 years later, that are doing volunteering and charitable fundraising in their communities. And one of the amazing things about the network is that we can say that teams have donated over 125,000 hours. Atheists, humanists, have donated 125,000 hours of community service in their communities. And I think that's so important because, and one of the reasons that I love the concept of the network is that, we have groups here and we have groups there, and they're volunteering and they're doing 20 hours here and 20 hours there. And it's important and it helps people. But when you have people who think that charity belongs to the religious and that non-believers don't do good things, it's important to be able to say, no, our groups have donated 125,000 hours. Since the beginning of this. And it's just growing and growing because more and more groups join the network. So, the groups the groups actually get something out of it too. We provide free t-shirts and with our logo and the group's logo if they want, and grants. And awards and other things, and we kind of tried to make it like a fun little leveling up thing. So when people report their events, the more events they report, they can level up and then get more stuff. So, and we do awards-friendly competition between the groups and stuff like that. So, volunteering is good, and there's nothing wrong with making it fun, and maybe even a little bit of a friendly competition. So, that's that one. The Humanist Service Corps was launched, this is our third program, the International Volunteering Program. It was launched in the summer of 2013. Originally it was called Pathfinders Project, and some of the other programs have had other names too, but this one is more well known. So I wanted to make sure and mention that it's Pathfinders Project. Connor Robinson is the one who kind of thought of the idea and approached us about it, and there was a lot of planning obviously that went into it before the volunteers started traveling in summer of 2013. They traveled around the world to 10 different countries, and the idea was to spend about a month with each organization in that particular country and look at their work and evaluate whether they would be a good long-term partner for the volunteering, for the International Volunteering Program. So 2 of the people that were a part of that, one was Connor and one is our current program coordinator, Wendy Weber, and they were among the 4 volunteers. And so we launched in 2015 in northern Ghana. And northern Ghana is interesting. It's a very superstitious area, more so than the rest of Ghana. I put here that 90% of Ghanaians believe in witchcraft, and most of the witchcraft accusations occur in the northern region. It's a very entrenched custom. They accuse women of witchcraft if something, bad, or even if something good happens. And sometimes if the woman who is accused has a man with a strong standing in the community to vouch for her, then she can evade this stigma.